Joining us now live to weigh in with his expert opinion is the author of Let It Sink In and Tough Sell, Tom Basile. Tom, so nice to have you on the show today.
Oh, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so the WHO is a United Nations agency. They're being accused of essentially putting the interests of China over public safety. You have said, and I just want to read it correctly, the UN is influenced, if not controlled, by authoritarian regimes. Explain the statement.
Well, we're spending $400 million a year thereabouts on the WHO, and we don't have any leverage. That money should be coming with leverage and an accountability regime that is responsive to the U.S. taxpayer, and that's not happening. So what you see is a tremendous amount of influence from our geopolitical competitors like China, like Russia, and even Iran. When it comes to the UN, when it comes to the WHO, China basically picked Director General Tedros. There's a long-standing relationship between the two of them, and you can see how dangerous that type of influence is when you have a Director General that says, I have no reason to doubt the word of a communist regime with respect to human-to-human transmission of this virus. So the president is right on to suspend our aid to the WHO for the time being until there can be new standards and practices and accountability regimes that are put in place to ensure that our competitors are not controlling these UN organizations.
Well, some critics are saying that now is not the right time to do it. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Bill Gates actually came out and said that this is a very dangerous move right now. What do you say to them who are saying, well, maybe later, we can do this later, but right now we're in the middle of this, so we should still give them funding?
Well, look, he's not taking our already allocated funding away from them at this particular moment in time, but funding going forward and allocation of U.S. tax dollars going forward is what he's talking about. And I think that the president coming out of this pandemic is very well positioned to lead the type of UN reform agenda that we've been trying to do for many years. And he's got the ability, because of the way that he approaches problem solving and decision making, to take the countries, and there are just a small group of them, many of whom are very close allies of the United States, bring them together and say, look, separate and apart from the UN bureaucrats and the Secretariat and our authoritarian competitors, the Western countries that fund these organizations are going to demand a degree of reform in order for us to continue to fund these organizations. And that's the responsible thing to do for the American taxpayer and, frankly, for our national security.
Do you see him doing that quickly? We have about 30 seconds.
I hope so. Look, we haven't really taken our role seriously at the UN to try and blunt the influence in China and even in the Western Hemisphere by those authoritarian regimes that I speak about. It's really since John Bolton was the UN ambassador. But I think that coming out of this, the president does have the leverage to demand some new standards, practices, and reform.